Welcome back to another episode of Magic's in the Mess, the go-to podcast for ambitious women ready to stop pretending, start aligning, and finally build success your way. I'm your host, Danielle McKinley, speaker, business and wealth strategist, and your go-to problem-solving hype girl. Here, we'll help you unlock powerful mindset shifts, discover your magic, and bring your dream life into reality. Each week, I'll deliver raw stories, proven business strategies, and powerful transformations with industry leaders to activate the magic in you. So if you're ready to ditch the pressure, the performative BS, and the noise telling you who you should be, hit subscribe and let's make some magic. Today's guest is Madison Gammons, a money mindset and wealth coach helping ambitious women rewire their beliefs, master their finances, and build millionaire level wealth from the inside out. After paying off over $70,000 in debt and walking away from her corporate career at just 28, Madison built a multi-six-figure net worth and a full-time coaching business. As the founder of Making a Millionaire, her signature one-to-one program, she blends mindset reprogramming, financial strategy, and energetic alignment to help her clients step into their wealthy woman era. In this episode, we talk about unlearning old money stories, turning subconscious blocks into new standards, and how to build real wealth without self-sacrifice. So welcome to Magic's in the Mess, Madison.
I'm so excited to be here. I feel like from the second we connected, we just vibe and we both love to yap about money. So I am excited for today's combo.
Same. It is not often that I meet another entrepreneur who's obsessed with numbers like me. So I feel like it was an instant, easy click. And you have that good energy that matches who you are online. And those are my favorite type of people. So I am so excited to get into all the money things today. But first, I want to rewind because you weren't always the person sitting before me today, right?
Yeah.
So I want to rewind and take us back to the spot where you realized you had to get a grip on your money, like that messy moment.
Oh my God. Okay. I would say the messy moment was probably at 17. So my senior year of high school, as someone's, going to senior prom, doing all the things, prepping for graduation. I actually ended up having a bit of a falling out with my mom, who I was living with at the time. So I moved out. I moved in with a boyfriend while graduating high school who was a year above me. And I just very quickly had to learn how to navigate the world of money. I was figuring out how to pay my bills, how to file taxes, how to apply for student loans and financial aid and everything I needed to go through college. I put myself through college on loans and grants and credit cards and good vibes and all of the things. And so I feel like that chapter was really messy because I obviously just had no idea what I was doing. And I was very much so in survival mode. Mm-hmm. And I was just trying to get by. Obviously I'm in college, right? So we don't have super high expectations at that time, but still I was just trying to navigate a lot of that on my own. I had to go through a lot of the victim mindset and pull myself out of it. So that was the first part where I was like, okay, we got to get by. But even then I was still just surviving. And by the time I graduated college, I was just really sick and tired of being a broke bitch. I did not want to be living paycheck to paycheck anymore. And so I went into sales.
That? Let's take a pause because who doesn't want to be a broke bitch, right? That's the instant, I'm listening. Tell us how we got out of that.
Yeah. So I was like, what does one do when they want to make money? So I went into sales and I entered my corporate job with this idea and this vision of I need to make six figures, and six figures is going to solve all of my problems. That was my perspective. At that point, my belief was, you go to school, you get a good job, you work hard, you make money. And that was the end of it. And so to me, making six figures was the end all be all. This is how I'm going to have this crazy luxury life that I see everybody living, right? And I hit six figures about 3 years into the job. And I remember just looking around being why doesn't this feel the way that I thought it was supposed to feel? What am I missing here, right? And then it's making money is actually only part of the equation. Once you start making it, you've got to learn how to keep it and how to grow it. And so that for me was a big pivotal moment of okay, what the heck are the rich doing? What are the wealthy doing? What should I be doing with my money? And at that point, conversations weren't even part, the words wealth and retirement and financial independence and financial freedom, these weren't even part of my vocabulary. I didn't understand how people achieved them. So it was just I got to figure this shit out, and I got to figure it out ASAP, because grinding in corporate America until 65 and then leaving to enjoy that part of my life, that just was no longer an option for me once I started to figure out the power of money and what you could do and how to live life a little bit more aligned with your own priorities.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about like the corporate aspect, right?
Yeah.
Because so many of us can relate to that. We've experienced it. There's somebody listening right now that's like, "Shit, that's me." They're on their hot girl walk and they're like, "Yep, I
Mm.
want out of this hamster wheel." So how long did you stay in corporate America before you were like you got up the courage? Because let's be honest, that's what it takes. It takes a lot of courage to step out on your own and become an entrepreneur. So how long were you in corporate America?
I was in corporate America for 7 years. I actually came back. I got married, came back from my honeymoon, and on my 7-year anniversary with the company, I put my 2-week notice in.
Okay, so the irony there of seven, like we go through as humans, we go through so many transitions
Yeah.
at like seven anniversary marks in relationships, in jobs, in things that we're doing. So I
Yeah.
find that very interesting. So you come back, you're like, this isn't it for me. I gotta go, and you make the jump.
Yeah. Okay. Also,
Okay.
on that 7-year thing, I was 28. It was literally that year that I
Yeah.
made that big transformation where I was like, this just isn't it anymore. I had been burnt out, unaligned, unhappy in that job
Mm.
for a couple of years, probably the last like 2 to 3 years, with the last year leading up to me leaving definitely being the worst. I was making such good money, and that's what I thought I wanted my whole life, right? I had came from so much scarcity. I was
Sure.
like, all I want is this income. And don't get me
Hmm.
wrong, life making multiple six figures is like significantly better than living life paycheck to paycheck, living in that like survival mode. But it's still like it wasn't doing it for me. I was looking
Yeah.
around and I'm like, this just isn't the life that I want to live. And so it did. It took a lot of courage. I was like shaking when I put my notice in. And after I put my notice in, I went to my bathroom stall at my office and I cried because I was like, did I just
Mm.
make the biggest mistake ever? Like, this
Yeah.
financial stability is, again, it's what I thought I wanted. And now I'm walking away from it. Like, that seems so counterintuitive at the time. But there was just such a knowing and such an intuition in it where it was just like, I got to go. And also, I'm in a chapter of life where, my husband and I are a couple of years out from wanting to start a family. And so it's just like, there were so many things where it was like, I'm feeling this pull. The frustration level is so high in this job. Like, I just cannot continue on. And I kind of have this bucket of time right now, this chapter of time where I can
Yeah.
take on additional risk. I was in a really good spot with my finances and, I don't have other mouths to feed. So it just kind of felt like there is no time like the present. Like, we just got to go
Yeah.
for it and spread our wings and take the leap and see what happens on the other side of it all.
Okay, so kudos to you for stepping out. And what I love about podcasting is capturing stories just like this, where we all can relate to those hard moments when we have to make a really big decision that
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot leaning on it, right? And I love sharing these stories because if you're listening to this and you're in that moment, Madison is proof that you can make it happen.
Yeah.
Now, I want to get into money a little bit more because money. So I always ask entrepreneurs, why did you become an entrepreneur? And it's usually, I want more freedom. I want to make a bigger impact. Well, great. Those two things both require money.
Right.
So if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, that's me, you need to get good with money. And a lot of times we need help with that because it's something that isn't taught, right?
Yeah.
So when you started out on your own, did you know immediately that you were going to teach people about money, or did you start with something else first?
Oh, good question. Okay, before I left my full-time job, I had about maybe 7 or 8 months that I was doing the business on the side. And when I first
Okay.
got into it, I realized coaching was what I wanted to do. But I started in specifically just mindset related because I knew mindset was so important. I got certified as a mindset coach. And honestly, I look back and I didn't think I knew enough, had accomplished enough. I didn't like, I had my own limiting beliefs about who I could help because, you see all these people, like, I'm not already a multimillionaire. I'm not already all of these things. Right. And so it was me working through some of my own actually like limiting beliefs about who I could help and how I could show up. So it did take a little bit of time for me to fully own, like, you know what? No, I feel so passionate about women feeling confident with their finances. And I'm going to just fully own this as my space in my area that I want to make an impact in. But I did just start specifically with mindset. So now mindset and subconscious is such a pillar in my business,
Mm-hmm.
but now through the lens of money. But it did start out on just the mindset piece.
Sure. So I want to unpack that a little bit because it's something that I see so often with even highly successful, like even the people that maybe were starting and already are multimillionaires, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's when you go through this shift of into something that you're not totally an expert at yet, right? And so you have to work up this confidence, but that confidence, it comes from competence and
Yeah.
putting in the reps,
Yep.
right? So if you're listening and you're going, gosh, I just don't know, but you feel called to do it, lean into it, because anyone can become the expert if they're willing to put in the work. And that's
100%.
what you've done. That you work through your own limiting beliefs, which I know is a huge part of something that you coach on. So let's move into money,
Yeah.
because as a money girly myself, there is this resistance, right, that people feel around money. Like you start to talk about, oh, we're going to discuss finances, and it's like the immediate ick, or they're like, oh, I don't
Cringe.
want to do it. I don't want to
Snooze
come.
fest.
And it's, yeah, like the shame. There's so many mindset shifts that come with money. So what are some of the key things that you see with your clients when you're first getting started around the actual mindset specifically towards money?
Mm. There's definitely a lot of fear and
Mm,
shame and guilt and a lot of shoulds. A
yeah.
lot of, oh, I should be doing this. I feel like I should be doing this. And anytime you're trying to make a decision from a should point, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that's where you should be making your decisions from, especially finances, right? Like what you should be doing could be good advice for your situation, but you got to be convicted around like how that actually pours into your own personal finance strategy and the life that you're trying to build. So I feel like there's a lot of guilt, a lot of fear. Fear, I mean, it's the number one emotion that people have when it comes to finances. Afraid of not having enough, afraid of running it out, afraid of fucking it up, afraid of picking the wrong thing. Like
Yeah.
there's so much fear. And when you understand that our brains are wired to help us survive, but not help us thrive, and that our brain fears anything that's unknown. So any decision that you're going to make differently, like the way you've
Mm-hmm.
managed your money up until this point in your life feels safe and comfortable, even if it's not supportive of the life that you're trying to create for yourself. And so
Yeah.
fear is one of those big things. So I really like to help people understand how that shows up and how they treat their finances, because when we hear fear, I think a lot of people understand that we might go into like a trauma response, like a
Mm-hmm.
fight, flight, freeze, fawn. But people don't understand that we do the same things with our money. And so you could procrastinate and just like avoid big decisions and like never be opening up your bank account or being super controlling. Like all of that is a fear response. And so when you can start
Totally.
to understand that that's what's happening, and I think it's really helpful to be able to like call your brain out on your bullshit, is what I like to say. Like, oh, that's cute. And a lot of times the fear, it sounds so rational, like, oh, well, I mean, I just did this. And I mean, we have the kids over here. Like, it's just, you're like, yeah, that could be true. But also it's your brain trying to keep you safe in this
Mm-hmm.
space. And so I think that's when you start to recognize that and can call it out and see it in the moment of like, oh, this is just fear showing up. Thank you. Like, right. Like, thank our brain. Thanks for trying to keep us safe. But I'm going to move forward because I know the same shit that got me to where I'm at is not the shit that I need to keep doing moving forward. And so that's a huge thing. And then I think just like worthiness is a really big conversation when it comes to money, especially with females, especially with moms, especially with, there's just a lot of that, like, oh, well, am I greedy for wanting more? Like, am I worthy of
Yeah.
having this abundance? So I'd say those are the two common things that come up often when we're trying to assess mindset and how to move forward.
Okay. Yeah. I love that. So I want to come back to something that you said. You said you hear a lot of like, I should be statements,
Yeah.
right? And so one of my favorite things to help people when they're in that should is to challenge that question with, why do I think that?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times our beliefs around money are so imprinted upon us from such an early age, or the experiences that we had around money, or how we grew up, or what our parents modeled, or what our aunt and uncle modeled. And we don't even realize that it's like this subconscious story in the background that's
Yeah.
running the show. And I find often, and you tell me if you see this too, that when the shoulds are happening, it's that old money story that's
Yeah.
running the show. Would you agree to that?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Because then it's like, okay, well, what got you to that? And then you realize, like, oh, well, I guess that's the perspective of my parent. And, I'm actually trying to
Yeah.
not recreate that cycle. So I should probably remove that from it. Absolutely.
Well, and I know that we align so much on the mindset piece, because one of the things you and I have talked about is that if your mindset around money and your money story isn't adjusted, then all the strategy and the systems that we teach you, they're only going to take you so far, right?
100%. Yeah.
So would you say, and I think I know the answers to this, but I'm
Ask
going to ask
away.
it to you anyway, that the mindset piece is more important than the financial strategy?
Without a doubt, 100%. I don't even need to like ponder that. The mindset is the basis. And that's why I started in that, because mindset is so important for anything that you're going to do. You can have all the strategy, you can have all the systems, but if you are going to self-sabotage yourself,
What's the
like
point?
there's only so much you can do.
So let's talk about, because I view a lot of people know they need help with money, right? And they have this dialogue. We all have that inner voice, and they have the
Mhm.
dialogue of like, oh, I should really log into my bank account. Oh, I should really plan my budget better. I should really start an investment strategy. But they don't do it. And so sometimes I say that in order to help somebody with their money, they almost have to be ready. I think of it as like an addict,
Mhm.
right? Like you,
Mhm.
you can't force an addict to change. And the same thing goes for getting your money thermostat adjusted, so to speak. Do you find that to be true as well?
Yeah, you can't help anybody in any
Yeah.
facet of life unless they are willing and able to do the work and face themselves, right? I think it's so interesting because if you're trying to get better at physical fitness, right? It's really
Mhm.
normalized to hire a personal trainer. If you want to get better at eating food, it's really normalized to hire a nutritionist. Like those
Yep.
seem to be like, but like financial wealth or financial fitness it's self-care as well, and it's a really important
Yeah.
pillar to your life. You need a strong physical foundation, mental foundation, financial foundation, spiritual foundation. So it's same thing. Like if you're going to go hire that personal trainer, like you better be ready to show up and put the workouts in, and you better be ready for them to tell you to get your ass lower and to add an extra rep in. Like you've got to be ready and willing to put in the work. Otherwise it's kind of just, it's not, if you're not going to do it, you're not going to see the benefit from it.
I love that analogy so much, because I don't know if it's the fact that it's like it takes money to make money thought process that people
Mhm.
have, but the analogy that you used is so beautiful because it's true. And if you want to change something, you can. You
Yeah.
hold the keys to the car to do anything that you want. That is what is so incredible about being human.
Yeah.
But you got to want it, and then not just want it, you got to be willing to take action. So if you're walk me through a little bit when you're working with a client, what does that look like?
Well, I work one-on-one right now, so we get to
Okay.
get all up in the weeds. I think what I really love to do and what I'm trying to bring to every call and conversation and opportunity to talk about money is this idea of make money fun again, right? Of just like, let's bring
Yeah,
a little bit of joy back into this journey. And so
I love that.
I also have an approach to money where it's not just your finances, right? Like if you start to do the money work, like I know you know this, but money bleeds into every piece of our life. Like,
Yep.
so what I love to do is have it's like life coaching almost, but for your finances. And so I
Mhm.
really like to help women get really clear on where they're going. What are the things that they do want to be spending money on? And how can we zoom out on life a little bit and start to actually build a spending plan that supports all the things you love to do right now, the things that you want to do 3 to 5 years
Yeah.
from now, and then the retirement that you want to have. And I think when you can start to zoom out on your life and get really excited about the future, then you can start to make the changes in the now, which is how we shift the reality that we live in. And so, yeah, I think, one thing I pride myself on is it's a really fun space and a really, I don't know, just a place to be open, right? Money is one of those
Yeah.
conversations that's so hard to talk about for so many people. And I just commend any woman that comes into my world that is raising their hand and is saying, like, I'm ready to do something different because what I'm doing right now is just not getting me where I want to go. And I think that's a
Mhm.
really vulnerable thing to say, especially with just how money is talked about in society. So I just try and create a really, really fun space. But we go through a lot of mindset work, right? So being able to figure out what your story is, what you would rather it be. Like you said, the beautiful thing about being human is we get to change all that. It really doesn't matter
Yeah.
what your past is. It matters what you decide to do right now in order to change your future. So what story would be more supportive, and how do we actually start to build that confidence in yourself to know that it is your reality? And then the other piece of it is really helping women understand how to spend intentionally. So with that zoom out, like, where do you want your money going? We live in a very consumeristic world, and we live in a very instant gratification world. And so it's getting
Yeah.
harder and harder for us as humans to like have that lens and have that point of view of, okay, it's okay to not spend the money now to put it towards something in the future, because that's actually going to give me more satisfaction than that random purchase now. And spending intentionally is, again, it's not something that we're taught. And then the other piece that really lights me up is helping women understand financial independence and financial freedom and the purpose of
Yeah.
investing. And I know that you're really into this too, of just, we're not taught that retirement's not an age, it's a number, and that you could actually stop working whenever your investments support your life. Like that's a huge gap a lot of people don't understand. So helping them piece together, here's what the goal is that you're actually working towards. Like here's what number would make sense for you, and how do we break that down into weekly or monthly amounts for you to actually be working towards that goal. And I think when people start to really understand what the goal is that they're working towards and how attainable it could be, then it feels more empowering, more confident. But yeah, all in all, I just always want every woman to feel really empowered and confident in their money and the decisions that they're doing.
That's one of the things I love about you is you have one of those calming voices, and it is true. I know we're both very passionate about making it fun, but most importantly, making it safe and feeling like, hey, this is a place where you can laugh, you can cry, you can cuss, we can dance, we can do all the things, right? And I know that your clients get that with you, and I think it's really courageous, like you said, for someone to raise their hand and go, you know what, I'm ready to have help with money. Because there's this weird thing that I see that we resist asking for the help, but yet we're not taught any of it. No. So it's like the one thing that makes the most sense to ask for help with, 100%. But it's like, we're like, no, let's not. Okay. So I just, it's fascinating, right?
It is really fascinating. And when you think about it, like if you fix your finances, it fixes so much. The ripple effect, like it's almost the core, because if you have the money to hire the trainer, like you're going to now you can bleed into your physical fitness. If you have the money to hire the therapist, now you can work on like it really creates such a foundation. And we know that majority of relationships, one of the number one things that they argue about is money. One of the leading causes of divorce, money. One of the big, like it's such an issue. So it's like, let's work on it.
All right, girlies, do you see now why you need to just raise your hand and ask for some help with the money, honey?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about habits, because habits are necessary everywhere. Yeah. And oftentimes we don't audit our habits enough. Mm-hmm. So let's go through like habits that you see the millionaire, like money girl needs to carry. What are some go-to habits that you see, some trends, and then also maybe some ones you're like, you need to have this one.
You need to have this one. I think something big I really see is a central place to track all of your money. Not necessarily having it all in one place, right? I have a bunch of different accounts, but having one centralized place where you can see all of your finances in one viewpoint regularly, like whatever that feels good for you, right? Like I probably check mine a couple times a week because I just want to be in there. Now you don't want to be like hyper fixated. Like I'm not saying we're checking it after every single transaction and like stressing, like there's a gray area there, but in regards to like, you can't achieve, what is the saying I love? It's you can't achieve an undefined goal. And so if you're not tracking what the heck's going on, like that's a huge thing. And then another finance one would be tracking your net worth and not your income. This was a big mindset shift for me, because you will just constantly chase more and more and more income. And it's never going to feel like enough unless you see.
You'll up-level your life while you're doing it. Yes. Is often what you do too, right?
100%. Yeah. Which could keep your net worth going up depending on what that looks like. But for the most part, we want to avoid major lifestyle creep. So I'd say like finance wise, those are two big things, like super simple, have some sort of like regular check-in, money date, however you want to romanticize it, to just know what's going on. And track your net worth and not your income. Both are good, right? Obviously you want to be tracking both, but like I was just for a long time tracking the income, and that's a recipe for burnout. I also think in order to make really sound financial decisions, we know 90% of the decisions that we make are emotional and not logical. So knowing that, we got to keep our emotions in check. So a big thing that I love to talk about is nervous system regulation. Being calm, right? We just talked about how fear really shows up with our finances, and fear runs the show. You've got to be able to stay out of fight or flight mode when you're making financial decisions. And so regulating your nervous system is huge. So like habits for me with that are eating really healthy. I eat a lot of whole foods, like whole foods now, protein, all that stuff, kind of cut out the processed food, working out regularly, moving your body, sleeping. Like those are core habits that again, play into how you can show up for yourself financially. Because if you're, not working out, not eating healthy, not sleeping regularly, your body is in distress and you're not making sound decisions. So I think it's really like a holistic, like if we're talking millionaire energy and in showing up in that way, especially if you're someone who's like trying to do things so different than what you've seen in your life, like you've got to show up in that controlled power. So I think for me, those are really big things.
I love it. Those are all, I couldn't agree more. I think those are all beautiful. And do your best to do that. Like if you heard her say those habits and you're like, "Oh, I'm doing two of them." That's okay.
Okay.
Like we can start somewhere. But if you want to make change and you're listening to this episode because you read the title and you were like, "Yeah, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be in my millionaire money era." Then listen, you got to put in the work.
You
And
got to put in the
so
work.
starting some of the habits that Madison just shared with us is a great place to begin. And don't overwhelm yourself. Like, even celebrate just the small steps that
Yeah.
get you there, right?
100%. I started this whole habit, like y'all, if you would have met me 5, 6 years ago, you wouldn't have known me. Like I was living on macaroni and cheese and alcohol, like literally, like I was not. So it takes time. This is accumulation of all these habits where now it's just who I am. It's just, right. It's like that identity shift. But yeah, I think that's huge. And then the only other thing I would say is like, you've gotta do things before you feel ready, and you've got to put yourself in rooms with people that have the life that you want and think the way that you want to think, because you've got to change that external reality piece of it. Otherwise, it's just so easy to get sucked into an old way of thinking, old habits, all of that.
Okay, so I love that you went back to like 4 years ago. If I would have been sitting here talking with you today, we would have been having a very different conversation.
Yeah.
Because one of my favorite things to do here at Magics in the Mess is talk about the messy moments, because those are often what shape this like polished highlight reel version that, people put us on pedestals for, but it's really that shit we went through that helped us realize our zone of genius, what our superpower is, what our mission is, what impact we want to make. And so let's go back to 4+ years before, because that's the stuff people relate to
Yeah.
and can go, I see myself in her maybe right now, or maybe they're 2 years into your 4-year chapter getting to the present. And let's talk a little bit about some of the aha moments that you had when you were like, ooh, I need to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the baby steps you took to do it.
Okay. I would say, on like the personal side, I was drinking way too much. I had just come out of college, and I think those years post college, you're kind of going through a little bit of an identity. Like, who am I? Like, I used to drink a lot in school, and I feel like it was hard to phase out of that habit for me for a while. And
Yeah.
like, just being so transparent, it was like I was just really, really tired of having those, like, you're drinking too much and you wake up and you have the anxiety and you're just like, what did I say? Did I hurt somebody's feelings? Like that lack of memory for me was just, it started to get really confronting, and it just wasn't who it's not, like, those are just such contrast versions of myself already. Like, that's not who I wanted to be. And I think also, I mean, we all went through COVID, like drinking during COVID was just like the norm, right? We had like nothing going on.
Yeah.
So I think COVID for me was a really transformational period, because it was the first time that I really slowed down in a really long time. I had just been hustling and grinding and working multiple jobs, putting myself through college. And then I jumped into a tech sales job where it's just grind season all day, every day. And it was just so much go, go, go. And COVID really made me slow down for the first time. And that's where a lot of my epiphanies happened, because I was like, this isn't sustainable. I'm not happy. Like, what is purpose, right? Like, what are all these things? And that was for sure a big eye opener for me of, I don't want to keep grinding in the way that I have to climb this corporate ladder anymore. Like, it totally took away my desire to do that. And with that was like, okay, well, what else? And it was small. Like, my husband, now boyfriend at the time, we would just drink often, eat really poor food. We weren't really working out that much. I might go to like Pilates every once in a while, but it was like not regular, right? And so like starting small, I think the first thing we did to start eating healthier was like ordering HelloFresh meals. Like, okay, how can we start to actually cook instead of eating out so much? Like, we used to eat out all the time, and COVID shut down. So like that kind of forced us into that. So I think changing that was really big. And then honestly, like, I went to an F45 class one time, and I just got kind of addicted to like a more weight training based model versus like yoga and Pilates. And so I just was like, do you want to go to the gym with me? And we started going together. And I think that's really cool too. Like, we've been on such a growth journey together, and I've always had kind of this like built in, okay, we're going to, for better or for worse for him, because I always come up with new fun diets or challenges for us to
Yeah.
do. But so it was just slowly, it was just, okay, maybe we just drink on the weekends. And then it was like, maybe we just don't drink that much anymore. We just celebrate. So like that was a phase. Eating healthy just went from like, maybe we only eat out once a week. It really was like a phased out approach almost in every single habit that I have now developed. It takes time to like slowly inch into the new norm. And I think that's the better way to do it, because when you're trying to change your life and change your habits, it's so easy to get caught in this like all or nothing mentality where you're going to go, I'm not drinking at all anymore. I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. I'm only eating X and X, protein and macro. Like that is going to be really hard to keep up with. Like you almost, it is a gradual thing that you have to do. So I would say if you're trying to change your habits, start small. Like you intuitively are going to be like, okay, what's the smallest thing I can commit to? Because with confidence in all of this stuff, and I think this parlays a lot into financial confidence, it's starting with those small things and proving to yourself that you can do them. And when you go all or nothing and you jump in, you're almost setting yourself up for failure. And then you're just going to re-support this belief system that you have that I'm not a fit person, I don't eat healthy, I'm not a financially responsible individual. So it's like, what's the smallest thing you can start today? And then when that feels like your new norm, what's the next smallest thing you can do?
Okay, I love it. And I think, so I'm going to give, for you listening, where you're like, I know, maybe you're feeling like, I know I need a change. I want to be at Madison's 4-year present day, and I'm feeling a little lost to where to start. Something that works really well that I still use even to this day is, does who I am today match who I want to be? And if the answer is no, there's a disconnect, and the disconnect is in your habit and how you're showing up. Right.
100%.
And then, like you said, it's got to be baby steps, because you don't want it to be too rigid. You don't want to go to the extreme, because then it's not going to stick.
Yeah.
So once you agree that, you know what, I want to take action towards who I want to be, so that who I am today and who I want to be can be the same person. Then as you're going through the course, start to ask yourself, will I respect myself more or less? And does this get me a step closer to who I want to be?
Yeah.
And if you use those anchor points, and we subconsciously do it, like you may be hearing me say it and going, oh, I kind of did that, right, in the journey. But if you become really consciously aware of it and stick it in, like make a habit of asking yourself that before you make plans, before you say yes to something. That's how you can start to build that muscle of the habit over time to get to that person of, this is who I am and who I want to be are the same person.
I love that so much. And I was shaking my head because I'm like, yeah, that is what I did. Because when I think about it too, and I would add this almost back into the habits conversation of like what to be doing. And it was really leaning into things like visualization and gratitude practices, because visualization for me, I was able to tap into who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up. And it very much is, okay, how can I slowly make these habits mirror that version of myself? And then the gratitude along the whole way, just finding ways to stay grateful for every piece of the journey. And gratitude is, it's such a hack to just start to shape your reality into something that makes fighting this fight, makes making these, because it is, changing our habits is one of the hardest things that you're going to do, because we are by creatures love to stay in our comfort zone. That is like but all the growth, we know all the growth happens outside our comfort zone, and that means changing our habits. And so, getting really clear on who that version is, how you want to show up, how she would walk and how she would talk to herself and talk to other people and talk about other people and about her goals, like that is so important. And when you can start to have a really clear vision of that future that you're working towards, I do believe it makes it a lot easier to move in that direction.
So I feel like you blend manifestation, strategy, all of that so beautifully. So for somebody who may feel like called to do that, or maybe does practice it today but feels like it's just not quite tight, what is like a tip you could give a listener that's feeling that way and relating to it, but is like, I want to get better at blending the manifestation with the strategy?
Okay. This might be like a hot take on manifestation, but like manifestation to me is personal development. When I think about everything that I've manifested, everything that I've thought of an idea of in my head and I brought into reality, it took me putting in action and becoming a new version of myself. Because if I wanted something that I didn't have, it's because I haven't worked towards that yet. So I think personal development and manifestation to me are just like one and the same,
Yeah.
right? And it's not this like, woo woo, like I'm going to say I want to be a millionaire and all the things are going to now drop down in my lap. It's going to be like, okay, I've decided I want to be a millionaire. I'm not currently in that world. So who is millionaire me and how do I start to show up like her? Because if you want something that you don't have, you've got to figure out what the habits are, what the strategy is, what the connections are, and all of that, and then put in the work. And so when I think about how to blend the two, for me, it's so interesting because it just comes so naturally. Like if you just have the strategy, but you don't have the vision of who you are and who you're trying to become, like we
Yep.
said, like there's no purpose or why behind it. It gets really hard to show up when shit gets hard.
Yeah.
And so I think just continue to hold that vision and also just trust and believe that whatever vision is on your heart, it's there for a reason. Like I just am at the point in my life where I'm just like, oh, must be because I'm meant to show up in this way, right? Like, oh, so example right now, like speaking on stages scares the shit out of me. Like I am panicked behind stage, but I know within me, like this is a big piece of my journey that I'm meant to do. And so like leaning
Yeah.
into that and just kind of facing the fear and doing it anyway. But I think yeah, it's manifestation is like the movement component of the belief of like, I'm going to act like the version of myself that has what I want. And I'm going to move through life with that until we just like meet in the middle and until it's mine.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. It's really going, I see what I want to be, and I'm willing to face the hard shit and go through the steps and take the action, even if it's messy, to find that person in outside of my thoughts in reality. Right. Not
Yeah,
just in my head, what I visualize, like I become her.
100%. And it's like the other thing is that that journey is not, it's not like this fluffy woo woo fun thing that I feel like a lot of people talk about on the internet. It really requires you putting in the work. Like
Yeah.
that is it. Like if you look at, let's look at like the different like laws of the universe that go into manifestation too, right? Like one of them is like the law of oneness. Like we are all connected. Like that goes exactly what we were talking here of like the decisions of like how you're showing up at work and showing up for your physical fitness and showing up for your relationships with your spouses and your friends. Like all of that is connected to your finances. Like everything is so interweaved. And so, yeah, I just think for me, it's just like it almost makes sense. You have to put it all together because otherwise, if you just have the vision and not the strategy, you ain't going to get there. If you have the strategy, not the vision, you're going to get lost in the sauce.
I couldn't agree more. And I feel like I believe that if you don't have the financial competence and literacy, that you're missing a huge piece in the puzzle. Like you could be
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's totally crushing it, but I promise you, you could make more impact and feel a lot happier if you were willing to put in the work to have some financial literacy on top of it and not just go, oh, I'm making enough money, I hired it out. And great,
Yes.
you can do that, but you still need to know your numbers
Yeah.
in order to make the best decisions because those people you're hiring it out to, they have hundreds of clients, thousands of clients, and you need to be able to advocate for yourself just like you would at the doctor. You're not
Yeah.
going to be like, oh, I have a doctor, so they tell me how I feel in my body.
Oh, I love that analogy. And I talk about this all the time. Most of the clients I work with do have a financial advisor that's managing their money. And my first
Yeah.
question to them is, okay, cool. Like, do you know what's going on in your portfolio? And
Yeah.
10 out of 10, I have yet to find somebody that's like, yep. Usually it's like, nope, I just handed. And I'm like, okay, I don't like if you're going to go that route and work with a financial advisor, great. But like, I want you to not just be doing it because you're outsourcing your power and you're just like hiring someone because this society tells us that's what we should do when we start to make good money, right? But it's
Mhm.
like actually knowing, okay, yeah, I am working with them and like this is how much I'm contributing because it's helping me get closer to this overall goal and I'm invested in this. And like there's just baseline level. I'm like, you just need to know some basics. And so I'll go through some questions and have them go back to their financial advisor and
Yeah.
okay, here's what I'm here to ask these things and then we can go through it. And so, yeah, having confidence, even if you are, having someone help you with that, like know what the heck is going on and know that it's supporting your
Totally.
goals. Yeah.
Well, because you're just assuming that they're doing the best for you. But if
Right.
you know what's happening with your money or you've reverse engineered your big goal, like what's your exit strategy? When do
Yeah.
you want to retire? What's your number? What is enough? Right. Then if you know that, you can then help them move the pieces more. Like maybe you don't want to do trading, but you want to be in the stock market.
Yeah.
Right. Then there's options for that. There's solutions for that. But knowing where you want to go and being able to guide and understand like your cash flow at a minimum is
Mm-hmm.
huge. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that you help a lot with that in your one-to-one program. So I want you to walk me through like I know you went over a little bit of the pillars and things like that a moment
Yeah.
ago, but what does it look like? How does someone get in touch with you if they're like, I want Madison to help me fall into my millionaire money girl era? What does that
Yeah.
look like?
We'll come through, slide a DM on Instagram and we can chat about your goals. And yeah, I think I'm always wanted to make sure that we're aligned with what it is that you're after. But I would say if you're trying to yeah, come slide into my DMs on Instagram and we can chat. And I would say on the investment piece, like the big thing that I help people understand is that what we talked about, what that goal is, like, what is your financial freedom number? Again, like people don't understand that it's a number and not an age. And people just think that they can turn 65 and all of a sudden stop working. It's like, unfortunately, that's not the case, right? Unless you're prepared to just live off of Social Security income, which last time I looked, it's not. Yeah, it's not like a sustainable amount of money to live off of. So yeah, helping them understand that big goal and that big picture and like painting that vision of like, this is what I would like to do in that age of life. Here are some, and like, it's obviously you're going to get more clarity the closer you get to it, but at least having like a good baseline understanding of what that number is and like breaking that down to a monthly goal so we can look at what you need to be contributing to your accounts, helping you break down, okay, do you have access to 401ks, IRAs, brokerage, HSAs, like what makes sense for your strategy, right? And just helping educate them around the benefits of all of these different tax advantaged accounts. I think is really huge. And then, for me, I'm just a big advocator of, make it as simple as possible. So like a lot of the stuff I like to help do is just educate on, the benefits of investing in things like ETFs and index funds. Like you don't need to be a day trader to start saving and working towards retirement. And honestly, you probably shouldn't, because day traders lose money most of the time. And that's what I think people think of when they think of the stock market is like, it's like, no. And honestly, like what your financial advisor probably is doing for you is just doing a lot of that same stuff too. And so yeah, I think that's like a big aha moment for a lot of people of actually understanding what the financial goal is and then where and how they should be putting that money in.
Okay, I love it. So I want to do like a lightning round of fun questions with you.
Okay, I love it.
And then I want you to share. Well, first share because you already did. Tell us what's your Instagram handle? Where can people find you? I'll put in the show notes, but
yeah, at the Madison J. So the Madison with one D, Madison, and then the letter J.
Okay, love. All right, lightning round. You ready?
I'm kind of sweating. I'm nervous, but yes.
No, you're going to crush it. Okay, what's one thing that instantly puts you in rich girl energy?
Ooh, first class flights.
Love. Okay. That was quick. See, lightning round and you had it. Like you didn't have to give much thought to that. That was epic. Okay. What's a money mantra you swear by?
I have so many. I'm like a little mantra queen over here, I feel like.
First one that pops in.
I mean, I love money. Money loves me. I feel like such an easy one.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Dream splurge you're manifesting right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay. My husband and I are in the middle of planning. I say planning. It's just me creating a Pinterest vision board of it. Like we haven't done any logisticals yet. But we're planning a trip for New Year's to Thailand and to the Philippines. I love to travel. Travel is a major motivator for me and money. So that's a big one we're working towards.
Okay. We need to talk about that. Because I have tips for you. Okay.
Fabulous.
Most surprising thing about building wealth.
Most surprising thing about building wealth. Just how integrated it is to everything else. Like when I first started getting into money, it was just like for the sake of money. And now I've realized so much about how impactful it is to give you the time and the freedom to explore your purpose. And I think that's what's really cool. If you can create space in yourself because you're not in that survival mode, you actually get to explore like, why am I here? And what's the impact that I want to make on the world? And how does me having financial confidence and a financial foundation let me reach self-actualization and actually get to show up in the world the way that I want to? Money's so much deeper than it. Yeah.
That's such a good answer. Okay. And favorite money book or podcast for mindset and strategy?
Oh my God, I'm like a nerd on money books. I read so many books. I feel like if you're like starting out and you're looking for like, give me a solid roadmap, I really love Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You How to Be Rich. For me, one of the first books I read that blew my mind, which I feel like this is such a basic answer, but it genuinely was one of the first books I read that changed my whole perspective. And it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. I was like, oh shit, we got to work some stuff to work on because we are living in poor dad mentality right now. So that one was really good. And then my last one I'll mention just because I feel like this is another classic, but Think and Grow Rich. It just really hones in on the mindset component of it.
Yes. Love both of those.
Yeah.
Okay. Fabulous. So one of the things that I love to do here, because I don't think as entrepreneurs, we celebrate our wins enough. So I would love for you to share a messy moment from this past week and a win moment that is magic that we could celebrate for you.
Oh my. Okay. A messy win. And what was the second one?
A magic moment.
A messy win and a magic moment from this week.
From this week.
Okay, magic moment. It's almost a year since I quit my corporate job, which is crazy. I'll be celebrating that next year.
Oh,
And I used to just dream about spending my Fridays doing like such fun things. And today I'm spending my Friday podcasting with just two women, you and Jill, which I'd mentioned before, that I just look up to and admire. And it's so cool to see how much your life can change in a year. Like it was not that long ago that I was crying in the bathroom stall at work, just like so unhappy and unaligned. And now I get to spend my time just doing what I absolutely love doing. And it's just such a beautiful reminder of how much can change in such a short time frame.
oh, I just love that. There's so much power in reflection. And I went to a conference. I went to the Aspire conference last week, and
Yeah.
one of the speakers was talking about like goal setting. And instead of going like, how am I going to map this out? Literally running forward and then looking back and going, what do I want the year to look like? And it's like another way to think on reverse engineering. And I feel like that's the power of reflection.
Yeah.
And you can go, man, I've come so far, and then start to go, where am I going to go in the next year? Those
Yeah.
are awesome moments.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing them. Thank you for bringing the energy. Thank you for being here and helping women tackle something that feels not fun sometimes, but making it fun and safe. What you do is incredible. Everyone, go find Madison on Instagram. We will put her information on the show notes. Please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. And we will see you next week. Thanks so much, Madison.
Thank you so much.